Good morning. This is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Wednesday. This week we're looking at Deuteronomy chapter 6. It's a famous passage. It's vitally important passage when it comes to teaching and training our family. Randall House Publications even bases their Sunday school curriculum on a thing called D6. They have a conference every year to teach us how important it is to train our families. And it's the basis for family study, for generational discipleship. It was even given to the people by Moses as they entered the promised land to give their families a good, firm spiritual base. And he begins by saying, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength. And then he goes on to say, you should teach these words diligently to your children. But today I want to remind you of Deuteronomy 6 verses 8 and 9. Where he said, you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. You see, the call to God's people here is to constantly remind us as well as others about our God. When he says, bind them as a sign on your hand. Now, I'm not really into tattoos. I know some people are. Maybe they could do a D6 tattoo of some kind to remind themselves. But I think it'd be easier to wear a bracelet to remind us daily of some scripture, or perhaps even have a ring that signifies some spiritual step we've taken, or maybe a promise that we have made. We don't necessarily wear frontlets anymore, but that's what they did in the Old Testament. A frontlet was actually some kind of ornamental piece of cloth that would hang down from their hat and dangle before them so that they would always remember these things. They even had phylacteries that had little scriptures, and they hung them from the edges of their garment. All of these things were reminders. The point is, we need visual reminders that we should not stray from God. They knew what the problem was going to be here, and of course it happened that oftentimes Israelites would turn away and stray from God and go after other gods. We need constant reminders of God's presence and even our need to worship him daily, whether it's on our clothing or dangled before our eyes. Maybe you could even find a verse bookmark and tie it on your rearview mirror there. Replace those huge fuzzy dice that you have hanging from your rearview mirror. Something or another to remind us daily. Put some signs on your refrigerator where you go very often. Maybe even a little sign on your mirror in your bathroom. But I think all of these things suggest that we make ourselves a reminder that we worship God. He also suggests that we write them on the doorposts of your house. Such signs and banners not only remind us of our need of God daily, but it is a wonderful witness to our community of what we believe and where we stand. Several Mennonite homes in our neighborhood have such signs at the end of their driveway with some scripture on it to not only be a reminder to them, but also a reminder to others. Do you have any decorative plaques or some signs in your home with scriptures on them? Those are wonderful reminders to your children as to where we stand, and even your guests that come into your home. Remind them that we worship God. I don't think we should pass over these suggestions lightly and say, that was just an Old Testament thing. We don't do the frontlets of phylacteries. We could all use a daily reminder to pray, a daily reminder that we worship God and stop and worship him as we should. And we might remind someone else even of their need of God if we put up the right signs as reminders for us.